evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, distinguished viewers. Tonight, Njenje Media TV presents a conversation that Nigeria's political establishment will rather avoid. A conversation many dismiss as propaganda, Western exaggeration, or opposition hysteria. Yet, the evidence on ground tells a different story. If you have ever spoken to people in the Middle Belt, especially Benue, Plateau, and the northeast, or rather what we call today the North Central. Our topic today is Christian genocide in Nigeria, unpacking Trump's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, the CPC. I will start by saying this, that for years, Christian communities across the Middle Belt, Northwest, and part of the Northeast have faced relentless attack from Boko Haram, ISWAP, extremists amongst them includes the Fulani militant groups. International watchdog described this attack as targeted, systematic, and religiously coded. Meanwhile, the Nigerian government and its supporters continue to dismiss the genocide accusation, framing them as political smear campaign. You can see in recent time, even names were mentioned within the the opposition that they are those behind this framing. But many of them, in this case, also forgot what they did in recent time that is not even long ago. Framing them as political smear campaign, resource conflict, or foreign misunderstanding of local realities. Tonight, we have no job to do other than to confront the clash between international alarm and domestic denial. Are Christians in Nigeria truly experiencing a targeted campaign of extermination? Is it just a mere exaggeration, or are we witnessing a complex intersection of ethnicity, land, pressures, terrorism, and political manipulation? I would then want to ask, why does the world say genocide, while Abuja says that using the word genocide is an exaggeration? And what does Trump's redesignation mean for Nigeria's diplomatic future? Our panelists today are eminent scholars, diplomats, clergymen, human rights experts. They all will dissect the fact that will expose the contradiction and address the uncomfortable truth. This is not a conversation, as many of you will know, for the faint-hearted. My guests this evening will include Reverend Dr. Ishaku Ama Kabung, a missioner, a mobilizer, humanitarian worker, an ordained minister with over 23 years of service across West Africa. He serves as the mission mobilizer and communication officer for SIM WAMO. Dr. Ishaku Ama Kabung, you're welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, and God bless you all, viewers.
Thank you very much. My second guest this evening, our second panelist this evening, is Mark Lipdo. He is the founder and CEO of Stephanos Foundation, a leading human rights and crisis response organization in Nigeria, a University of Jos graduate. He also leads Merrill's Concept International, a construction firm that's been established over the 3 decades. Mark Lipdo, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So another guest that I have here is a man many of you know on this platform, a man who is not afraid to say things that others may be avoiding or, in his words, may be sugarcoating. Here I have, joining us virtual, another panelist, Dr. Tony Mwezigwe. He's an Africanist scholar, a civil rights activist, a political activist, also an expertise in African history, diplomacy, and ethno-religious conflict. a former senior researcher, fellow, and pioneer director of the Center for Igbo Studies at the United UNN Nsukka. He now serves as the president of the International Coalition Against Christian Genocide in Nigeria. Dr. Mwezigwe, you're welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Njenje Media. Glad to see everybody.
Thank you. So, we should be having another panelist join us. That is Mark Arnold. He is the one who was invited by Reno or Makri and the NSA Nihu Ribadu to tell the truth. And he came to Nigeria, he told the uncomfortable truth that triggered what we now witness. He will be joining us. The moment he comes in, I will reintroduce him. But the last and not the least is our dear brother and friend, Citizen Bolaji O. Akinyemi, an apostle, nation builder, and governance reformer, chairman of Master Builder Communication and convener of multiple civic platform driving constitutional reform, leadership transformation, and Justice Center National Conversation. Dr. Akinyemi, you're welcome.
Always my pleasure to be with you, Mazi, and I celebrate everyone on this panel with me. Great men, you gather together this evening.
Thank you very much. Now, I think it is now time for us to do the needful while we are here. Having introduced all of you, one thing is here in common with all of us. We are seeking truth. We want to talk to ourselves. We want to talk to Nigerians who are listening to us wherever they might be now. I would want to start this way. Having listened to my introduction, our understanding of what is happening, that Nigeria again has been redesignated as a country of particular concern. I will be giving all of you 3 to 5 minutes in your own word, without any form of interruption, to tell the world what you understand that is happening. Why is America getting involved, and what could be the consequences for this? I will start with our dear brother, Dr. Nwankwo Mwezigwe. You take the first shot here.
Thank you, Njenje, and welcome everybody. Let me begin by saying that what is happening in Nigeria, especially in the matter of denial of the crime of genocide, is just a kind of ostrich mentality. Hiding your head, whereas all your bodies are there, open. Let me, first of all, take it seriously. First of all, what I call ostrich mentality, when people come out to deny the existence or the crime of genocide in Nigeria, they're playing ostrich. Because first, let us just be clear about the whole thing. The issue of the crime of genocide is not new to Trump, to President Trump, or President Trump. He knew about it long during his first term. So it's not that we just made the report during his first term and he took it off. No, they have a lot of materials that define, that reveal the crime of genocide in Nigeria. Let me give you an instance. On June 27, 2017, President Trump met in his Oval Office, White House, 2 survivors of Chibok girls, Joy Bisara and Lydia, Lydia Pogo, who just graduated from US college. They visited him. So he knew about the crime. On April 30, 2018, President Donald Trump hosted President Muhammadu Buhari in his Oval Office. And there he clearly told him that you people are killing Christians, that I will not allow it to go on. Clearly, he told the president of Nigeria there. Unfortunately, the break in transition in general in 2020 general election could not permit him to continue what he's doing now. And thirdly, let us be aware that on December 11th, 2020, the same President Donald Trump declared Nigeria a country of particular concern, which was revoked by President Joe Biden in 2021. So it is not like this is the first time Nigeria has been declared as a country of particular concern. It's just a matter of reinstatement of what he had done before. So we have to bear that in mind. And when you're talking about denial of atrocities or genocide, what do you expect a criminal to do when he's accused of murder? Have you seen a murderer who appears in court and the judge asks him, guilty or not guilty, and he says, I'm guilty? He will say, I'm not guilty. Charles Taylor declared he was not guilty. The Hutus declared they were not guilty. And the only thing that can solve it is what? If for international courts, International Criminal Court or United Nations Security Council to now bring up an investigative thing to investigate. So it's not going to end with a denial of genocide. The issue of genocide is settled. It's settled in Article 2, Article 2 of United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Article 2. The definition is settled there. You also go to Article 6 of the Rome Statutes of the International Criminal Court. There, the crime of genocide is settled there. It's settled there. And it's with very short and simple definition. It doesn't even have to do with the number of people you kill or whatever. So it is there. So it's not a question of denying. If the moderator will allow me, let me just give you a short definition of what Article 2 of the UN Convention on Prevention and of Crime of Genocide. Let me just read it. In the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. As such, A, killing members of the group. B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part. D, imposing measures intended to prevent deaths within the group. And E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. So it is very simple. So what are they denying about? So we are past the level of denial. And when we join them in the short denial, they are bringing us back to our own next stage. Because the next stage is what? Bringing them to trial, asking the government to come in. I know the government cannot come in of the day. And that is why the American intervention becomes imperative. And people are talking sovereignty. American intervention is, if America comes here, invest Nigeria, America is covered under international law on what is called humanitarian intervention, humanitarian military intervention, which is a clause protected under international law and sanctioned by the United Nations General Assembly and Security Council. And what we mean by international military intervention is either a threat or use of military force on an independent nation in order to prevent the mass killing of its citizens as a result of either the government connivance or inability to solve it. So it is defined. And so if America intervenes today, it's covered.
So
on the United Nations, United Nations, let me say, even their resolution in 2003 acknowledges it.
round up.
So yes, so it is not like intervention is against sovereignty and so on and so forth. The principle of a humanitarian military intervention is on the part that the life of human beings, the life of citizens of a particular country, are more valuable than the defense of the sovereignty of that country. So if you cannot protect your people as the leader, and that is where they call about, that is under the clause of the responsibility to protect a country, a nation, the leaders are supposed, they are supposed to, they are enshrined in their constitution to protect their citizens. That is the responsibility to protect. And where they try to protect their citizens, according to that principle of protection of your citizens, an external intervention can come in, either in group or in one. Because, you see, this thing started during the time of Kosovo. People were being slaughtered. Also, you see about the situation in 1994 Tutsi genocide by Hutu. For 100 years, for 100 days, people, over nearly 1 million people, Tutsis, were slaughtered, and all the war powers stayed, stayed aghast. The same way in Sudan, Republic of Sudan, between 2022 and 2025, in Darfur region, Janjaweed, sponsored by the government, as our government today are sponsoring Boko Haram, sponsoring Fulani herdsmen, sponsoring bandits, sponsoring ISWAP, killing people. Yes, why they say
Thank you very much, Doctor.
And they were killing Sudanese. Ultimately, so government and other people said, United Nations said, especially under Kofi Annan, when he was Secretary General, he said, shall we wait while people die just in the name of sovereignty of the nation? It cannot happen.
Thank you. Thank you. It just, thank you for that brilliant, first shot here before we dive deeper here. Now, I will call on the next panelist, that is Ama Kabong, please. If you are able to unmute yourself, take the virtual podium and tell us, like I said at the beginning, your holistic view and understanding and of what is happening. In doing that, I would want you to also look at how do we explain the overwhelming concentration of attacks in Christian majority regions such as Southern Kaduna Plateau and part of Adamawa, right? So this is the segment where you are taking time to explain to us your holistic understanding of what the subject matter is. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mazi. I just want you to just quickly repeat your question about the Southern Kaduna and the Central. It got skipped before I hear you.
Okay, so I say why you're giving us that holistic answer. Then my question, an addendum to that is: suppose Christians are not being targeted as the government claims. How do we explain the overwhelming concentration of attacks in Christian-dominated regions like Southern Kaduna, Plateau, Benue, and part of Adamawa, as it were?
Thank you so much, sir. I really respect all the panelists that have been rightly chosen. I think you have a golden eye to pick panelists on this matter. And I'm really grateful to be part of this conversation today. Quickly, let me just share what I believe is happening and explain in my own terms for those who don't really understand what is going on and are keen to make contributions. First, if you look at the legal and policy basis of what is happening, you will see that this designation is rooted in the International Religious Freedom Act, which is the IRFA of the 1998, which mandates the US to identify countries engaged in systemic and ongoing grievous violations of religious freedom. And one thing we need to note, it is not a global standard, but a US diplomatic tool. A lot of people feel that, oh, it's from the UN or something. No, it is a US diplomatic tool that can trigger sanctions or visa ban or restrictions on aid and increase diplomatic pressures on all countries that are violating some of these rules. Nigeria is joined in this list with countries like China, Iran, and North Korea, and Saudi Arabia, and others. So, being designated, why are we now designated? If that is the policy framework. The US cited mass killings of Christians and the enforcement of blasphemy laws in the 12 northern states, which is no longer a news to every one of us interested in this subject matter. And the government's failure to curb the violence and perpetrated by the non-state actors. They are always called the unknown gunmen, There are several of them who died in action that their faces are known and their relatives are known, but they are still identified as unknown gunmen. So the leading forces on this violation are the Boko Haram, the ISWAP, the Fulani militia, and all these violent groups perpetrating this wicked. They are clear, they are identified, and so many times they were able to come on air, make videos, take responsibility of their actions on the soil of Nigeria. Then, look, these faces carry out their impunity with no distraction. They perpetrate this evil, and they lack people lack effective protection from the government. And religious communities are really and worse heated. Let me tell you this. Most of these communities in the northern part of Nigeria that you've heard that Christians, Hausas or Muslims are being attacked, you really need to know the composition of these communities. Communities like Kateri and other places in the parts of Katsina that have been heated severally. These are Christian-dominated communities. You check it. I've worked among these communities for a very long time. I've partnered with them. I've been speaking in conferences of purely Hausa Christians from the 19 northern states. It's a massive national conference. Let me tell you that. And they come from all these nook and crannies that are really unheated, worse than others. Now, the practical implication, let me just do the practical implication of what is happening and what might happen that get people agitated. There is economic and diplomatic risks for Nigeria being designated. Yes. And that is why the government will never want to accept that. The potential of being sanctioned is there. And then the restriction on military aids and developmental assistance is there. The possible pressure or on international lenders. You know, Nigeria is a country interested in lending money all the time. So they will not want that image to be damaged. Look at the security cooperation that could be hindered between Nigeria and United States. So they will not want that to happen as well.
If you begin to round up, please.
Yes, sir. So now, why are they insisting that it is not a genocide? And if they do, and if it is not a genocide, why are they attacking the Middle Belt? Now, you will really need to understand the history of Islamic jihad in Nigeria to understand why they are attacking the Middle Belt. The Danfodio movement of Islamization was actually stopped in the hill mountains of the plateau. And then they were not able to penetrate places like Benue because of the river and because of the terrain. There was so much effort to be able to conquer the Middle Belt as a bridge to the rest of Nigeria. But this fight stopped. So many of his heroes were killed. On their way to return back to Bauchi, they stopped in places like Toro. Now, let me tell you one thing. Between the time and when Danfodio himself was wounded and he was to retreat, among the Muslims, there is a saying that the Hausa Fulani Muslims community asked him, what will you give us to conquer the Middle Belt, the plateaus for you? After we conquer it, what will you give us? He told them, I will give you 100 years. If you are not able to conquer that place, you will never conquer it again. It was in 2007 that 100 years was completed. In 2007 was the 10 years anniversary of that 100 years, because 1997 was the 100 years. That was why the fight almost started in 1997 until 2001, full-fledged crisis started.
Okay.
So it is let me just round up this. It is a deliberate attempt because they are running out of time. They are all on their feet for the Middle Belt. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that historical context. Now, I think we'll move on. I would want someone, my good brother, Citizen Bolaji Akinyemi, I will be coming to you shortly. But before I do, let me take Engineer Mark Lipto. Engineer, are you there? If you are there, please, if you don't mind, turn on your camera, then I can, okay. Now, as someone who is from the Middle Belt, I want to, like every other panelist here, your 5 minutes for your opening intervention. But I want to, while you're doing your intervention, to also look at to what extent, if I may choose that way, to what extent so-called farmer-header conflict actually masking religious motivated violence? And do you think there is anything at all that any of us here or our viewers watching us on various platforms could ever classify as farmer-header clash? You may now have the virtual podium, please.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the privilege given to me to speak on this program this evening. I'd like to say, probably start by asking, when you say 9/11 in America,
Will there be any doubt what it is? Anybody can answer that. Then I will ask why there is a doubt on 7/11. I mean, is 9/11 starts for September 11th, isn't it? But September 7th was when our own 9/11 started here in Jos Plateau State. Today, 9/11 in America is not in contention. Why is it that people dispute what is happening in Nigeria? I got involved, like you mentioned, I'm an engineer, and my business is construction. I have no business being part of this. But for the fact that for decades, I've watched people of my faith being molested, people of my faith being killed, and even my church on the day of the dedication of my daughter was bombed. 5 minutes, if I had gone into that church 5 minutes before the bomb went off, I may possibly have not been here. And so I cannot go into explanation to people about why Trump came out now to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Like I said, September 7th was when it happened in Jos. Our city market, Jos Main Market, was bombed. A lot of homes among Muslims were burnt. People were killed. The number of widows I recorded as a businessman trying to do something in the situation was 142 widows of Christians. And for years, I kept helping these widows. And that's the reason I got involved. When this crisis was not focused on, some of us felt we need to do something about it. In 2001, nothing was said about Jos crisis because the crisis in America, New York, enveloped what was happening in Jos. And so very quickly, the terrorists equipped themselves, moved into satellite towns, and they were soon in Wase, close to my hometown in Langtang. Before we know it, in 2 months, we recorded 16 pastors beheaded in Wase, and over 250 widows I recorded on my list. And that crisis went deep into Yelwa and went into satellite towns here in Jos area, in Rim, and other places. So I knew this was getting somewhere. Why is the mainstream media not taking and saying anything about it? I started Stephanos Foundation in 2003 because I believe nobody is listening to the plight of my people. I registered the organization. 3 years later, I was given a certificate to run as a non-governmental organization. In 2004, I started publishing some of the things that I had seen. And this was one of the magazines that I published. It's called Touched Magazine. If you look very closely, you will see termites have eaten some part of it. At the back is the picture of the widow, first widow that I recorded. Termites have eaten that. If you look at that, is a nurse that came, a missionary nurse that came from UK and was helping some of the victims. I later recorded in a hospital here in Jos. Over 700 of them were treated. All of them. There was no Muslim among them. I went ahead in 2008. when the post-election violence erupted here because Jos North will elect an indigenous Birom as the chairman of the local government, Muslims went in rampage and they destroyed the whole place and killed a lot of Christians. I documented over 1,647 Christians had no homes. Their houses was over 330 buildings. I documented with the cost of damages presented to the panel in that time. As if it was not enough, 2009, Boko Haram broke out with their violence in northern Nigeria. And I tried to document what that was. We took a team of lawyers, went around all 19 northern states to document the cries of Christians. I was trying to look for the copy of the book because many people, it was on hot demand. People took it. Even the one in my archive is not there to show you. The title is Religious Intolerance, a Threat to Nigeria's Unity. The complaint in that book was the complaint of Christians, how they were not listened to, they were marginalized, they were denied places of worship, and some of them were missing, went missing. Some of their daughters were abducted and married out. I wrote a letter to the Ministry of Justice and demanding that the government of that time, 2007, tried to listen to the cry of Christians. It was because it was not listened to that I published that book, Religious Intolerance, a Threat to Nigeria's Unity. I went on to start documenting atrocities against Christians. By 2014, a lot of my documents were threatened by crash on my computer. I had to print out another book titled Killings in North and Central Nigeria, a Threat to Ethno-Religious Freedom and Democracy. And that is looking to the plight of Christians and ethnic minority people within that 19 northern states. In January 2011, I convened a meeting of these people that I have tagged as minority of northern Nigeria. We discovered 673 tribes. All their traditional leaders were not Muslims, or most of them were Christians. They all came to the meeting. I invited the president of that time and the minority groups. We all listened to the groups, the cries of the groups. My question was, why is this not on mainstream media? Why is it not on BBC? I traveled to Shepherd Bush in UK and grant interview to BBC. But because it's BBC Hausa, it didn't come out. We made all efforts to project the documentation of all that has happened. Half of this book, as I told you, is instances of violence done to Christians in northern Nigeria. The first on this list, if you permit me to read, which was documented in February 26, 2010, it says, Muslim pushing against security men to attack Christians. I documented that in January, 20th February 2010. And the last in 2014 here, I documented here where about 12 people, including a soldier, was killed. Fulani headsmen attacked at 2 a.m., killing 12 people. I listed the names, and half of this book was evidence, as you can see, of all that we documented. Now, How did it come about? In fact, before I get there, as if it was not enough, I also went to interview all the traditional rulers within northern Nigeria who are non-Muslims. And I documented this in a magazine titled Loud Silence. It will show you how many IDP camps that are there, who are responsible, how many people call it Fulani genocide against them. And I circulated this. I took it to UN. I also gave it to US International Commission for International Religious Freedom. All this have been effort that I've done over the years. Coming to what I do. Each time a community is stricken, our phone does not keep quiet. We are called and we go in there, record everything that has happened and try to find comfort for the victims. And that is what I have done for the past 25 years.
Wow.
I have gone to Zamfara, yes, where I have also ministered to 10 communities that were non-Christians, and they were also targeted. I spoke to the leaders of that place, and they told me, it is better ours. We Christians, we have hope, we can cry. But for them, as Muslims, if they complain, they will be seen as apostates. And they show us videos of how terrorists will come into the mosque because they do not understand, they don't like their feeling of how they sympathize with Christians. They come into the mosque and spray everybody dead. And I have one of those videos where the imam stood up and said, "Is anybody alive? Rise up. God has ordained this to happen." Now, that is Islam. For us, God does not ordain any death of a Christian to happen that way. And for us, we will advocate for the plight of our people, especially when they work themselves into coming together into a a federation where they think that their rights will be protected. Time will not permit me to talk about how many riots have happened. Each time Muslims feel that somebody has offended the faith, either he has insulted the prophet, Christians are targeted, their edifices, their churches burnt, everything is destroyed.
Thank you very much.
On that, nothing was done until 2009 when we began to see the first insurgent group call itself Boko Haram. I was the one who took the rantlings of Mohammed Yusuf and reported to US Commission and the Congress about the fact that this is threatening democracy and US need to do something about it.
Okay, thank you. I think
I will conclude very soon to tell you who we target, because you said something about farmers' headers.
Yes.
No air was given to this until we saw that what you call farmer headers began to emerge. Fulani became armed, and they know our traditional ethnic communities, and we find out where armless and armless and non-criminal communities are sleeping in their homes in the night. They will be targeted with guerrilla warfare. Guns will be shot, and they will be hacked with machetes. There is no conflict. Those kind of attacks have never been provoked. We find children were killed. We have recorded so many people massacred in that form. What we knew when we were children was that the Fulani used to graze, and we benefit from them because the animal dung is manure to the farms, right? And whenever a Fulani defaulted the community, he is reported to the police, and the police will take action, and the Fulani will pay damages. What we have seen here, even in Riom, I reported where 400 cows went to graze on a farm. The military arrested those cows. The owner came and they paid about 400 to the owner of the cow.
Okay.
Now, when did that become an excuse of killing people? I cannot accept that it is farmer.
Now, I want you to, obviously you have gone exceedingly way beyond the time allotted, but now because we are on the trajectory of farmer header clash, do you think contextually that there is anything one should ever consider as farmer header clashing, considering that a farmer has a static asset, which is the land and its crop, and the header have a movable asset, which moves rooms around? So isn't that a misnomer for us to have this nomenclature called farmer header clash, as opposed to saying headers invading farmland? Because a farmer would never, take any of his crops to the ranch, is it?
Yeah, I would like to say that I like to quickly talk, but sometimes I talk too much because I have a lot in my head. I first had that statement in England when I went to address the parliament. And when they confronted us with farmer headers clash, I was shocked for the first time. And
would you remember which year was that?
That would be, I can't precisely, but around between 2010 to 2014, I can't really say, right? But between 2007 to 2014, I can't really say, right? But I was given an opportunity to address the Congress, the Parliament, and for the first time, I was confronted with farmer headers clash, and that what they thought that was happening was that there was climate change, and so the herders were moving southward, and they clash most of the times with population explosions in communities, and that caused all the crisis. I said no to that. No, because all the people in northern Nigeria are subsistence farmers. They are also animal husbandries, animal keepers. And they keep this for their economy, and they also keep it for food, subsistence feeding. And so for Fulani who come from outside Nigeria to come and think that we will accept that narration for population explosion is wrong, is not correct. Somebody somewhere is framing this understanding, which is not in order in understanding with what we are facing.
Okay.
So Fulani are actually invading farmland. Mind you, we have animals as well. And each time they invade, amongst them are those who rustle cattle. And they feel it is their right. So most of our cattle are rustled away. And we will also report to the police. The police will do nothing about it.
Okay.
So for me, that definition of farmer headers clash is not at all.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you affirming that. Thank you. I think seeing that there is a lot that we still need to talk about, especially from your insights that you've given. I don't mind, having eventually schedule a one-on-one with you to really do a deep dive in this. Now, I'm coming to my comrade and brother, Citizen Bolaji Akiyemi. Anyone who is following you, who understands where you stand, you've written extensively about some of these things. Please, if you may take just a while to do your own intervention. But I want to, in your own intervention, I want you to actually also look deep into Boko Haram and ISWAP, understanding that they openly declare war against Christians. I want you to look at the fact that our government not necessarily Bola Tinubu's government, but since the time of even Goodluck Jonathan, Muhammadu Buhari, and now Goodluck Jonathan, that government downplays this explicit, the explicitity of religious dimension to all this conversation. Why do you think that is so?
Well, Mark, let me say, Mazi, sorry, let me say thank you so much for having me on, and a very rich panel that you have provided tonight. We have an historian on board who will supply all of the history that we have need of. We have somebody who is a missioner and who is intervening, interfacing, engaging with the people who are directly affected in these ways. Mark Libido has done extensive work at keeping data, keeping record, meeting with communities. So we have very reliable sources of information as regard the subject that we're talking about. But please, I don't want us to be in doubt or labor in vain trying to prove what is already the obvious in the open. What we have here is in the open. What we have here is in the open. The onus is on the Nigerian government to prove that the truth is not the truth after all. But what is staring us in the face is nothing but the truth. We must not forget the fact that President Trump's position on this is intelligence driven. He didn't just sleep and wake up one morning and decided that, okay, there had to be designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. There are intelligence reports. Now, if we do not bother to know what the details of these intelligence reports are, we will just be making noise, thinking that we can convince a man of strong conviction on what the issues are. Now, having said that, there is a recent press release made by ISIS taking responsibility that Christians are targeted in Nigeria. Now, I wrote an article that I titled Allah Akbar, and I said that is the claim of particular concern. And I made reference to that because when the video of Andemi, the CAN chairman in Adamawa, was rolled out, the shout was the shout of Allah Akbar, before the man was beheaded. Now, does that suggest that these people are Christian, herbalist? We know the people to whom this belongs to. So coming out to start defending what is not is the sheer waste of time. And we may never find solution to what confronts us. In your extension of time for Mark Libdo, you ask poignantly about the issue of farmer-elder clash. Let me let you know one of the reasons why Christopher Musa lost his job was because he came to define what is going on and refused to accept that what is going on is farmer-elder clash. Because the way you put it, one is stationary, the other is mobile. For you to have a clash, both must be in motion. And he proposed to us that there's no way what is going on can be a clash. That some person possibly found offensive, for which they took the position they took. But please, let's remember that in 2023 December, the first Christmas of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there was an invasion of 3 local governments for 24, 25, 26. 3 days running. And we know the number of casualties. Over 200 people were left dead, many injured. Now, if Christmas Day and Boxing Day, or the eve of Christmas, as we have it, 24, 25, 26, were targeted, and communities that suffered were basically Christian community, why are we going to keep deceiving ourselves that Christians are not targeted? Why are we? Now, a year after, 23, 24, 25, and 26, that is December 2024, I was in Boko's local government, Mangu local government, I think Rion local government, the affected local government, and we set up what we call Christ Marks. In this wise, MAX, X as in xylophone. Now, maximizing the impact of the gospel by going to demonstrate the love of Christ to the affected. Why did we took that step? We took that step because July, August, I was on the plateau. And it was disturbing to see that when you mention Christmas, people were literally in shock because of what their experience was in December of 2023. And so we mobilized resources and decided that we were going to spend that Christmas and that season on the plateau. I wrote to NCPC, I wrote to the Office of the First Lady, I wrote to the IGP, I wrote to all the security agencies. None of the letter we wrote to these agencies of government about the plight of Christians in those communities was replied. Not a single one. So the silence that we are accusing the government of is not something that we do not have proof. We have proof that there is no deep concern about what is going on. There is no attempt to change the trajectory and to change the experience of what the people are going through. The real-time situation on the plateau, in Benue, in all of the Christian settlement across the north is that of genocide. And let me remind you, Mazi, there was a presidential statement under President Muhammadu Buhari made by Pastor Femi Adesina. Your life or your land? Your life or your land? I didn't invent that. A presidential spokesperson made that statement, that we either accept the government policy of settling these forceful people by force, or we accept the fact that they will continue to kill us to take over our land. I mean, what else do we need to prove that what is going on is nothing but genocide? Mazi, I want to plead with you that we have enough resource person on this program to help us arrive at a conclusion. And we should be thinking of taking this battle to the next level. We have nothing to prove. We cannot prove what has been proven. Permit me, please. My daughter is getting married tomorrow. A lot is on me. And because I have disappointed you quite a number of times, past weeks, I said, no, I must bring my face and explain myself why it's not been easy for me to make myself available. But if you forget everything that I have said tonight, please do not forget that there is a presidential statement on record asking Nigerians to choose between their life and their land. And if you want to ask me, I think we should bring what is before us to the context of the state of Lagos. Are Igbos facing genocide in Lagos? Because that is what is looking like. Thank you.
Wow. Citizen Dr. Bolaji Akinyemi, I think after your fantastic submission, you know, you are excused, because I actually received your invitation, and I understand it is not easy, and it's a mark of respect that you are joining us amidst what you have in your hand. I thank you very much. If you are able to stay, fine, but if you're not, honestly, you have done marvelously well. It's an honor. I must thank you for that. Now, gentlemen, we have all done the first round, which is our introductions and what we think about the subject matter. Now, to the second part and to the second segment on this, we have 3 segments as planned. First is what we've just done. Second is where we would take questions, then we'll dive deep, into the meat of the matter. On the third segment is where we would then open the floor for those who have joined us in the virtual world and those who are in this room to ask questions, to probe for clarifications if there is any to be done here. Now, we have looked at the ethnic dimension of this, and while some of you were making your presentation, and some also have made it very clear, very forcefully so too, to say that definitely there is an ethnic and religious dimension to this. Now, I think let me stay with those of us from the Middle Belt, and I'll ask this expressly to say, can we separate the ethnic dynamics of the Fulanis, the Thieves, the Birum, the Jukuns? Can we separate these entities from the religious identity? Or have these identities now merged in a deadly way that we can no longer separate these killings to be a thing that, as Dr. Nwezigwe made us to understand in the definition of genocide, to say that these are actually a thing that we can argue that is targeted. I don't know, either Reverend Ishaku or Engineer Mark Libido, any of you can please take this question.
Well, let me come in. You're talking about, can we separate the ethnic people from this situation? The way I will put it to be able to bring clarity is to ask, are there any ethnic groups in clash with each other at the moment? No. All over northern Nigeria, all over, I have the list of all the tribal groups here, name by name. None of us are in clash with each other. State by state, I recorded over 673 tribes. None of them is killing anyone. Each and every leader have mentioned one name, at most 2. Always when there is community attack and we are there to gather information, the names that come out is Fulani. Fulani among the Birom, attacking Birom, Fulani among the Kulere, Fulani among the Ngas, Fulani in southern Kaduna, Fulani everywhere, Fulani even in northern Nigeria. The question is, why Fulani? So I will just simply say, we are not at war in Nigeria. Rather, like you rightly put, we are being invaded. by people who, before now, are not Nigerians. They are nomads, and their activity transcends the borders of Nigeria and Mali and Niger. And so they move from Moravia freely into our own territory in Nigeria. And our borders are very porous. Now, who are Fulanis? You will trace the history back to Uthman and Fodio. You will understand why the Fulanis are killing. Fulani hold a religion that uphold blasphemy against non-Muslim, non-Fulani. And so this blasphemy, respect for blasphemy law in Sharia has given them edge against every other tribe that are targeted for invasion. The history goes back to the invasion of Damascus. Go back and you will find out that some elite Arabs that were in Damascus revolted against the constituted authority in Damascus, and they overrun the system. Quickly from there, these tribes who are nomads also copied it around Mauritania, and at the lakes of Mali, they began to apply the same thing as the principles and ideology of Islam. And that was how they brought out the idea of jihad, fighting the infidel, taking over for the sake of Islam. Now, in Nigeria, we have lived all together, Muslim and Christians, at peace for a long time. In my family, we have Muslims, we have enemies, we have more Christians, right? But we never had any problem. But the invasion of these tribes around 1804 brought in jihad on the Hausas, who were at that time majority Muslims, and they overran the Hausa people and took over the control. As I'm talking to you today, up to today, there is no Hausa man acceptable to be a Muslim enough to be an emir in Kano, Katsina, Sokoto, and Jigawa, and everywhere. It has to be Fulani. Why Fulani? They uphold this ideology, supremacist ideology of Islam that superimposes them over every other tribe. And they've practiced it in 1804, and they are now bringing the ideology now. Now, I will take you back to when Nigerians came out in 2011 to all agree to elect President Goodluck Jonathan, who was a Christian minority from southern Nigeria. In 2 days, this is the record. We went round all over northern Nigeria. Over 700 churches were attacked, destroyed, and burnt, right? 2,400 Christian edifices, schools, and everything documented here were destroyed. Over 200 Christians were killed. 400 were injured. I documented it in 2 days, and I had to publish this book simply because a Christian is taking over from Buhari, who stood with him from APC, and Goodluck Jonathan was in PDP. Many Northerners lost their lives at the poll of election. Wow. We remember that the late President Buhari at that time cried with his tears. Next time election was going to happen, we were told, we came to understand that mercenaries were imported from those locations around Mauritania, Mali, and all that, coming in to come and make sure that Buhari, whom they call is now a Muslim, is going to fight a religious war for Allah to take down the infidel. You will understand that President Goodluck Jonathan had to secede power. And he said, he made a statement, he says, the blood of his ambition is not...
It's not worth the blood of any Nigerian.
any single Nigerian.
Okay.
What does that mean? Armed militias came with cutlasses, rolling them on the street of Nigeria, calling it a campaign, threatening people. If you come to the poll and they ask you who you are going to vote, and you say it's Goodluck Jonathan, so they will have you remove your arm.
Let me, I know that Dr. Nwezigwe is raising up his hand to make an intervention, but before I allow him come in here, you brought another dimension to this conversation, which is that there is, or before now, that appears to be a state intervention in this crisis, or state involvement. By this, I mean those who were at the periphery of power but eventually came to power were somewhat involved in all this. Now, when we accuse the state of their, being accomplice to this, are we going to say that the state is actually actively involved in this, or is it then fair to say that the state is only getting involved, as it is today under Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is getting involved in this crisis by their action or inaction of being unable to deal decisively with those who are committing these crimes against Nigerians in this region? Just 2 minutes.
Yeah, when you cut me in, I was about to establish how that they took in power and they run for 8 years before President Tinubu took over. I have documented instances of violence against Christians. Even today, I release 1 week evidence of instances against Christians. And even though we see in President Tinubu what we think is the willpower to fight, you will see records of military intervention, but you do not see evidence. But we always have seen people being killed. Up to day before yesterday in Lere, 4 people were killed, 11 church members were abducted, including the reverend and 2 pastors' wives. Up to today, we've not found them. So yes, there is that intention, there is that declaration of intention, but it's never felt on ground yet. 28 instances of violence targeting Christians in just 8 states is alarming for 1 week. And we are documenting this every day. Matthew, I have another one to release in 1 week time. And so we're watching how willing and how effective is the determination of this administration. And don't forget, it's the same party that took on power from the Goodluck Jonathan administration and have always been violent and have turned the blind eye to the suffering of the people on the ground. How can we trust that to bring about lasting solution?
Thank you very much. I just want to announce to us that we have Mike Arnold now join us. I would give him preference because we're all done in the introduction, and he just joined us. Like I said to us before, he will, he informed me ahead of time that he was getting into another meeting. So, Mike, you are welcome to this conversation here on Njinji Media TV. Mike, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. I was called into a Zoom call with Senator Sam Brownback. He was former ambassador at large to the United Nations from the U.S. for religious issues. So he's convened a core group on this side of the ocean, including a lot of leaders in Nigeria. So I was on a call with them just now looking at specific, at highest level, how we can deliver evidence, how we can deliver sanctions lists, locations, et cetera, to our decision makers here. So they're looking for very specific, actionable information. So please feel free to use me as a point of contact for anything that's,
so
I'm not talking rumors, but actionable information.
Okay, so what you're saying in essence is that Nigerians who are listening to us now and who those who are affected, who know 1 or 2 individuals that they may want to include in a sanction list, that they should be reaching out, and you'll be glad to make that happen. That this
Correct.
individual, yeah,
Yeah, and again, it'll get to the. I mean, I don't want fluff. I mean, it needs to be evidence. It needs to be
yes,
not just names.
yes.
So, and I know all the names. I mean, they're out there on, but I need actionable intel, and
Okay.
we can protect sources.
Okay, so Mike, before now we've done a round of introductions, and in this introduction, we've allowed every panelist here to give us his understanding of the redesignation that has befallen Nigeria for the second time. And in that, we wanted you to give us your introduction and to tell us your involvement so far and your perception as to the consequences that may pertain for Nigeria. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know how much introduction I need. I've been to Nigeria 16 times. I've been on the front line of genocide with a documentary camera, from the villa to villages and plenty of IDP camps as well. I'm being pulled into the highest levels. In fact, it was Senator Brownback, who I just finished the call with, who helped sponsor the very first CPC designation for Nigeria. So he's very aware and connected. I don't have hope for traditional things like sanctions or diplomatic pressure. I think that's ridiculous. What people over here don't realize, but I think most people over there do, is that the jihad caliphate and the government of Nigeria are just two heads of the same monster. I think it's a mistake. There's talk about arming the Nigerian military, and I think that's a horrible mistake, considering the truth of what we know. So what I'm advocating for is 4 things, and I'm pushing this at the highest levels. I'm circulating a policy memo, in fact, that I'm told has made it to the White House. First is a congressional delegation. Let's take the world's eyeballs, the cameras, the interviewers, to the IDP camps. Take it to the villages. Take them to the sites of genocide. That's what flipped the script in Bosnia, is taking a congressional delegation to the mass graves. That changed everything. I've said for a long time, most Nigerians don't even know the reality of what's happening there. And if Nigerians know what's happening, they're going to be a big part in fixing this. So next is, I'm in favor of indicting the Tinubu administration for genocide, not for what's happening in the north, but legally, by precedent, their degrading, denial, and smothering of the internally displaced people is genocide by law, and it is actionable now. I'm in favor of indicting them in International Criminal Court today. That's more than sanctions. I'm also in favor of investigation and possible listing of the Sokoto Caliphate as an international terror sponsor. Again, that puts a lot more teeth than just blocking bank accounts. That puts Tomahawk missiles in play, and it should. So congressional delegation to expose it to the world, indict the current administration, designate the caliphate potentially as a global terror sponsor, and finally focus on resettling, recognizing, aiding, and resettling the internally displaced. If that doesn't happen, the international observers, it was documented, say that as many as 2 million youth will be radicalized by 2030. That's not that far away. Imagine 2 million radicalized youth across Nigeria. That's apocalyptic. There must be intervention, and it must be today.
Okay. Let me make a let me ask you this clarification question. You talked about the congressional delegation. How does it work? Is that something that has to come from the Congress, or is it something that the Nigerian counterpart has to invite them to come and see, or how does that work?
So it would start with, and I'm meeting next week with Representative Riley Moore, and I'm looking to get a meeting set up with Ted Cruz as well. And I'm going to push it. It would have to take a congressman or two to say, let's do this. I believe it can be done independently of the Nigerian government, and it must be, because the Nigerian government is not going to allow this to happen. They deny that these IDP camps exist. They call them criminals and beggars and vagrants. They bulldoze them. So I mean that's witness suppression. but yeah, I'm working on that. It would require a congressman. It would require quite a bit of logistical work, security. But I've already got major top journalists that are contacting me that want to be involved. So that is something to work for. I've never done one. I'm learning as I go, but making great progress, and I'm talking to the right people. I would like to see that happen, before the end of the year, if possible.
So you don't think Nigerian government could be in a position to frustrate that happening by not issuing them visa and keep them away?
I believe that where we are right now, and I believe Nigerians are slowly starting to accept it. I think everybody knows it, but I believe where we are right now historically is like it's 1940 and we just discovered Auschwitz. This regime will not end what's built it. I mean, the caliphate in the north was built on jihad, and they control the government. They're part and parcel of the same thing. They're not going to be complicit in ending it. They're going to fight. I mean, you're seeing right now, they're paying lobbyists and spin doctors around the world to try to deflect attention and call it all a hoax. They don't want to end it. It's their power base. So yeah, it needs to be done over the top of any Nigerian government effort to suppress it. It's that important, and it's going to be that explosive when we get cameras there and people start to pay attention.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mike. So please stay with us. I'll be coming back to you with more questions. Now, but for clarity here, Dr. Nwezigwe and Reverend Dr. Ishaku, while Engineer Mark Lipto was talking, both of you raised your hand. So I want to give you 1 or 2 minutes more. If there is any clarification or questions that you have that you may want to, or any intervention. Let me start with you, Dr. Nwezigwe.
Thank you very much. First, let me just explain shortly the situation, because you are talking about ethnicity and religion in the Middle Belt. It's an academic research matter which some of us have done deeply in. See, the Middle Belt situation with multiple ethnic groups, their ethnicity does not act as a unifying force. What acts as a unifying force is religion, and that is Christianity. So in Middle Belt, their nationalism, unlike South, which is based on ethnicity, the nationalism in the Middle Belt is based on Christianity. So that is why the whole thing about the clash or clashes there is about religion. That is by the wayside.
Excellent point.
Yes. Secondly, on the issue of what we need from America now, to add to what Honorable Mike Andor said, what we need, because as I have quoted on on the principles of the responsibility to protect and other relevant United Nations conventions, the issue is the present federal government cannot solve the problem of the genocide or stop terrorism in this country. They cannot.
Why? Why do you say so?
First of all, the mechanism. You look at the structure of the government first. You look at the structure. Out of 48 ministers, 33 are Muslims. Only 15 are Christians. Out of the 22 senior high-ranking security officials, including the president and the vice president, 19 are Muslims. Only 5 are Christians. So, who is the National Security Advisor? Is he what we call him? National Security Advisor.
NSA, yeah.
Ribadu. It's a Fulani man. Minister of Defense, a Fulani man. Minister of State for Defense, a Fulani man. Even the present Chief of Army Staff is a Kanuri, half Igala. And that man was in charge of resettling so-called, repentant Boko Harams in the Northeast when he was commander of the 7th Battalion there. So they don't have any plan. In fact, they're all talking about denial. And when people are talking about denial, they stay away. They deny the responsibility of the crime. And when you deny the responsibility in a given crime, what else? There are relevant United Nations mechanisms of solving the problem. And I've said it. First, we have ICC. We also have the United Nations Security Council. These two bodies can now institute investigative panels into the country. That is one. Go there and investigate and do what? And set up a special court to try those who are there from what? From the president down. So that is one. Secondly, as I said, America has every legal right covered under international law to intervene militarily. And it's covered, as I said, under the doctrine of humanitarian intervention and failure of the doctrine of responsibility to protect. And it says when a government when a state government, when a national government is incapable to stop the genocide among its own people, or is in connivance with them, one power, external power, or one or two, cannot breach into that sovereignty clause and go and save the people there. Because the life of the people there, the lives of the people there are more important than the mere sovereignty of that particular country. So we're expecting America to first of all come in militarily. And I'm telling you that that's what Nigerians are waiting for, because this government cannot solve any problem. They continue denying, even at the face of obvious facts, incontrovertible evidence. They're still denying. So the only thing that can solve it is for ICC to intervene. We may have problem with United Nations Security Council because Antonio Guterres is in their support, the Secretary General. Sorry. I also know that Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations is a Fulani woman here from northern Nigeria. They just planted her there to protect them. So the United Nations National Assembly or United Nations Security Council might not be of use to us today. Because if they go there, even France, which is now the patron Western nation for Tinubu, we even veto it because France has a veto power. So the best thing is America to intervene and push for ICC to intervene and pick up those who are responsible. We have had it in Kosovo. We've had it in Liberia there, in Cote d'Ivoire, also in Rwanda. So Nigeria cannot be an exception. Without that, the killings, as I'm telling us, is continuing and will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Reverend Dr. Ishaku, are you able to make your intervention under 2 minutes? Then we can move on. I need to piggyback on Mike because he has another run to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. They have already made a clear comment on the basis for our unity in the Middle Belt, that it is religion, not ethnicity. So I will not dwell more on that. But one thing you need to know, why the Fulanis, since Othman Danfodio believed that the mantle of Othman Danfodio is still the Sultanate today. I want everybody to know that clear. And they believe the markers of jihad in Nigeria and beyond Africa is sacrosanct on the fronts. That's why they are the ones checking on this move by now. I have reached out to so many people. I've been to Mali, seeing how the Fulanis are attacking the Christian base in Mali among the Dogon people and the Bobo tribe. It is massive. You need to come and see the activities of Darling. Darling is the presidential candidate of the Fulani extraction in Guinea here. When he contested election, the killing was massive. Today he is in prison. That is the ancestral form of the Fulanis. They are not tolerated to perpetrate evil and go scot-free. But Nigerian government don't have the capacity, as Mike Arnold just made it clear, that the Sultanate controls the government of Nigeria. Until we have a bigger and superior force to hold and bring these people to book, there will never be peace in Nigeria as a country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was wondering why suddenly your voice became as if your voice came under attack by those we are discussing, but suddenly your voice came back, so you've been liberated. Thank you for your intervention. Now, before Mike leaves, obviously some of these we are going to dwell more on the victims and what the victims are saying. Obviously, there is an international angle to it. How do we get help? So, Mike, if you're still there, I understand you're busy. You've been called in so many angles. Now, aside the names you've asked that we submit, and that Nigerians submit through you, that you can take to the senator, and the congressional delegation that obviously it's in the pipeline. Aside these two, Nigerians globally watching you now, what is your clear message to Nigerians and to the Nigerian government? Now, put this in context this way. There is this wide divide in Nigeria as we speak, because many are saying that Nigerians are calling for America to come and bomb Nigeria because they lost the election, which is weird. And if you ask me, that's WAP reasoning. But in politics, nothing is impossible. Considering that, do you think that, or do you foresee a situation where the president of America, your president, would probably take Nigeria by surprise and come and drop bombs in Nigeria? Or do you think he's going to probably ignore all the effort you guys are doing, and just one day wake up and target the terrorists who are killing Christians and other Nigerians?
Thank you. Good question. Trump is, he has the appearance of shooting from the hip, but he doesn't speak a word unless he's very solid and very well informed on it and has a plan. So I believe he has a plan and it's playing out. I don't know what that plan is. I know this: his foreign policy consistently, starting when he was originally a public figure, decades ago, has been, hey, let's just all get along. Let's all have peace. Let's all trade together. And if you violate that, you will never see it coming, and there's no place you can hide. And so I imagine, and he look at what he did with Iran. Again, very strategic, very targeted. Iran and Israel were almost to full-scale war. It was very bad, and the object of it was their nuclear capability. So he just took it off the table. Most sophisticated single military operation in world history, and it was 300 feet underneath rock. He just removed it before the Iranians even knew that he was there. And so that's how he operates. No, you're not. No one's going to see it coming, and there's nowhere they can hide if he decides, if and when he decides to do this. What can Nigerians do today? I've said this many times. There's no such thing as darkness. It's just the absence of light. And the longer as truth is suppressed, the more explosive it is when it's revealed. If you look at my press conference on the 14th, I don't think I said anything that really surprised anybody, but I said it, and look at the impact that it had. My encouragement to every Nigerian is to speak up. Look, there's no going back to the status quo. This is victory or death. We cannot lose this, because if the world looks away and Nigerians don't stand up, the retaliation is going to be more than anything you've ever seen in history. It's a dangerous position. There is no option of this just going away. There's no option of going back. I don't believe so.
Okay.
So what you can do is this: find an IDP. They're everywhere. There's probably some in your neighborhood. Interview them. See how you can help them, but get their testimonial on video and post it online. I've done that with just a handful of students in our school. Last night, Lara Luma aired one, and just a young man telling his story on a huge national platform, and the response has been amazing. just hearing their stories, these eyewitness accounts of what they endured and what they've lived through, and how this government has treated them. If we get 1,000 or 10,000 or 1,000,000 of those posted, that's the end of this regime. There's nothing. I mean, that's the truth. That's a light bomb that'll banish the darkness. Stand up, speak the truth. Encourage your leaders to stand up and speak the truth, and don't shut up about it. Find IDPs, help them, and share their testimonies. That is what's going to end this in a righteous way.
Now, still speaking on, still dwelling on Trump, do you think that this conflict, as it were, could in any way, shape, or form snowball into a regime change if Trump thinks that they're not getting it?
Trump is, look, he had the opportunity for a regime change in Iran. I mean, they were on the ropes, and a few more missiles and bombs could have done that. He has always said he's not a nation builder. I believe that he probably wants that, but what I've said from the beginning is Nigerians need to stand up. If he sees that Nigerians are ready to drive a regime change, I'm sure that will compel him more, and he will be amenable and favorable to that. But he's not going to be the one to go in there and rewrite the Constitution. He's not going to be the one I don't see him sending, an occupying army to do that. I see him supporting and equipping those who are on the ground now, the Nigerians that are capable of that. That's my opinion on it. He's not going to. Your salvation is not coming from the West. It's coming from your own hearts. And the West can support that, but don't make this another colonial mistake that, another foreign country came and wrote our Constitution. Stop that. You have what it takes to rise as a premier nation on earth if you just find your legs and your voice and stand up and make it happen.
Now, is it how do you deal with that how would you respond to this? Especially from the government front, there was a rejoice, so to say, within the week. They said that the bill was defeated in the Congress, that only 31 congressmen voted for. How true is that? And if it's true, is it that the senator who presented that is going to represent it again? How does that work? Are you aware?
I'm not, and that doesn't affect Trump whatsoever. There's a narrative battle taking place. If you look at all the global forces that have their hand in the Nigerian cookie jar, the jihad, global jihadis, and their huge state backers, you have the Chinese with their hand in the mineral cookie jar, you have the British, and none of them want the truth to come out. So there is a massive battle here for narrative that will make a difference. And that's why I'm begging Nigerians to stand up and speak. I'm begging Nigerians to start posting testimonials. That's not just to make you feel warm and fuzzy. That will move the needle. That will shift the narrative. And look, the representatives, the senators here, they've never been there. They don't know much about Nigeria. They probably can't find it on a map. They just know what they see on CNN, which is biased, which is spewing Tinubu propaganda. We must drive the narrative, and that starts with each and every one of you standing up, posting, and recording testimonials and posting them. That will move the needle, and that will make a difference. I guarantee it.
Okay, I would be letting you go now, but before I do, one more last question before you leave us. How can bodies like the United Nations, USAIF, ECOWAS, AU, that will have seen videos where they've come out, especially the AU representative in the United Nations, saying there is no genocide happening in Nigeria? And how can they verify these allegations when institutions, as so mentioned, are already accused of suppressing evidence? Now, one may ask, what is United Nations African Union's interest in saying that there is no genocide in Nigeria? Do you have any thoughts regarding this?
It's corruption and complicity. It's corruption and complicity. I have a report from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, documenting multiple IDP camps in the FCT. We have schools in two of those IDP camps, New Kuchingoro and Durumi. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of internally displaced people living there. It was documented by the UN in 2015. In 2020, and since then, they denied that they exist. They're still there. The same things that they documented 5 years prior, they now say don't exist. It is a cover-up. It is corrupt, and they are complicit. Your salvation is not coming from those organizations. It's just not. This runs deep. This is huge, and this is the forefront of the global forces that have looted and raped Nigeria for far too long, and now's their day of reckoning. And they're not going to stop to try to squelch it. We have to win this.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish I could stay longer, but I've got calls stacked up, and I need to grab a bite to eat before my next one.
No worries. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I hope you'll get my email. I will send you some things.
Thank you. I posted my WhatsApp number.
Okay.
Thank you.
So before we go into taking questions, I understand, Yusuf, I know that you've raised your hand, but I think Dr. Nwezigwe have his hands raised. Please, in 1 minute, make your intervention so we can move on. No, you're muted, please. Can you unmute? Go ahead.
Is that me or?
No. Dr. Nwezigwe, please.
Yeah. I think we have to streamline the main focus of our problem today in Nigeria. And we should try to investigate certain fake news. I've been monitoring I know American policy very well as a historian. And the issue before Nigeria is not a congressional matter. It is an executive matter. And the Congress had been on recess. They just met yesterday or so to vote and reopen the government. And the Senate have been busy voting on reopening the government until recently. Just yesterday, that the president signed it. Signed the executive order reopening the government. The issue pertaining Nigeria is an executive matter, is before the president. And the president has ordered the Secretary of Defense to investigate and report to him. The secretary has not reported to him. So it's not a congressional matter.
Correct.
The president has power to intervene in Nigerian affairs, just as intervene in Iran without congressional district, just as he's intervening in the Caribbean now over the drug problems now. So it's not a congressional matter. So let us face it and face the fact and know where we're putting our energies in, and not to dissipate it in other areas.
That's correct. Thank you very much. Thank you for that intervention. Now, Yusuf, I would come back to you when I just let me get done with my panelists. Obviously, those of you joining us, you have your time to make your own intervention, because in this meeting tonight, we have people who are still joining us from these areas where these killings keep happening. And I do pray that as we are speaking, that no killing is taking place. Many of you are already raising your hands, and we will be coming to that. Now, let me quickly come back to you, Reverend Dr. Ishaku, to say, now, one of the questions I do have is, bearing in mind you're a reverend and you understand from the narrative you've given us here, you understand also what is happening. Do you think there is a role for the mother churches internationally in really helping to get things done in Nigeria to save lives? The other time, I believe the Pope spoke from Vatican when there was this killing from Yewata, where our own president, obviously, when he arrived, never bothered to get into the real deal, he said there was bad road and it was raining. And can you imagine? You've lost countless number of citizens. Your argument is that the roads are bad. Who is supposed to fix the road? That is what you are headed. I mean, I don't know if there were, you know, thinking about it is really sad that such comments are coming out. But like I said, this is your constituency. Do you think there is anything that the churches globally can do to speed up, to bring in to succor within these areas that these things are happening? You are muted. You can unmute, please.
Thank you so much, sir. I really want to appreciate what efforts we have seen being put by the global body of Christ. As a pastor, I've witnessed a lot of interventions done by some churches in Nigeria. And some of these IDPs Mike is mentioning are being helped and co-sponsored by a lot of churches. But one thing I really want to make very clear today is that our effort of bringing succor through charity is not enough for the Nigerian church. We must be able to speak courageously as a church to call out these perpetrators, identify this criminality and genocide happening and call it by name. Identify the perpetrators and call them by names and voice out, write communities, speak out, if need be, mobilize an action against these activities. We must voice out. If this must stop, we must voice out. The church must rise up and stand. We know that our salvation is not from man, but God uses men and women of goodwill to intervene in every difficult situation. We have pastors on this platform, we have ministers that have been contributing a lot, but we must begin to call a spade a spade. I want to excuse quickly those of us who are carrying out the Hushai assignment. You know the Hushai assignment, the undercover assignment. Reaching out and moving the perpetrators, finding out information.
Sorry, your mic has gone. Your mic has been attacked again. We can no longer hear you properly. No, it's worse.
Okay. Am I clear now?
I don't know. Are you using a Bluetooth? Somewhat it connects, somewhat it doesn't. So what's happening?
Okay, maybe I have to turn it off or so.
It's basically sounding like an AI now.
No, sir.
Well, try again.
Okay.
Okay, much better. Thank you.
Like I have said, Excellent. The church have done so much to be able to bring succor, help, and relief. But relief is not enough for what is happening in Nigeria. It's not the matter of just relief. It's a matter of life and death. People are being killed on a daily basis. People lost everything, everything. They have been in IDP camps for ages. I have met young girls who were born during these attacks, the height of these attacks from Maiduguri, that are now matured young women at the age of 24, and they have never been to a four-wall classroom. This is as bad as this. They can't speak, they can't read, they have no morals because they grew within the IDP camps. And you need to find out what happens on these IDP camps by the people who are saddled with responsibility to care for these IDP camps, which are also government agents or other security personnel, is another case of study. The situation is growing worse day by day. And look at these people now. They are boasting internationally, saying, claiming responsibility of being the ones killing the Christians, and they will continue to do that until the church changes her action to this. I am not calling for arms, but I'm calling for responsibilities, clear-cut responsibilities. We have models of creating awareness, preparing for dangers, preparing for crises, creating awareness in our churches. The international community have a lot of resources for early warnings and strategic planning. Until we begin to champion this cause in a different way, we cannot keep using the same method and expect a different result. So far, we are losing it. The church must rise up. And until we make the right people speak out to the authority, we will never get result.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, let me, understanding, because there was a piece written by Dr. Nwezigwe, and he made certain profound allegation there that I would want him to also affirm or clarify here. But before I get back to him on that issue, let me quickly get back Engineer Mark Lipto here, because I have, sitting down listening to him, it said he gave insight and gave historical context, and also with clear evidence of the books he has written, the efforts he has made, and all the interventions. But when I reflect back and I begin to ask myself, in the 50s, especially within the Jos, within the Plateau, Mambila, the Mango Aziks, there has been this clash, most times we hear Birom and whatever, other people fighting. I would want from you, sir, can you give us historical context as to when this crisis in this region eventually metamorphosed into Christian killing? Bearing in mind structural failures that could allow extremist group to operate repeatedly in these regions without deterrence. And it keeps happening. It might happen tomorrow morning again. What is it that Nigerians are missing?
Thank you very much. I'd like to, before I get into answering that question, I'd like to add to the fact that part of the reason why genocide is for sure happening on Christians is that strategic neglect of the victims. I've heard you said IDP camps. There is no single IDP camp that have been set up by this government or any in order to give succor to the victims that have been sacked from their homes, either in this state, in Taraba, in Benue, or Southern Kaduna. There is no IDP camp set up by government.
Who sets them up?
Yeah, or United Nations, or anything. We, the non-governmental organizations, are the ones who are setting up IDP camps. Stephanos Foundation, my organization, set up IDP camp in 2014. We ran it for 4 years, and we resettled these people. We have their homes. We raised finances to rebuild their homes. And they are settled with their families here now and educating all of them in schools. And so no effort has come from government. I went to Buhari government to expose the 10,000 families that I moved into Karu, close to Abuja, to be able to expose them to the government in case they will be able to help them. The government denied that those people are not internally displaced persons. Even with their cultural dances, the welcome, the chaplain of the Aso Rock, they did not accept that these were IDP, and they did not give any support to these people. And so there is that strategic neglect that is targeting Christians. And the IDP camp that we ran for 4 years were Christians, all about 5,000 that came through that camp, and about in a denomination, about 13 denominations, different denominations that were running chapel within the camp. We have evidence of that. But there is none here in Jos. Have you ever seen IDP camp set up by the federal government? No. So our people have a way of just adapting each other, giving them accommodation in the way they can, and they are just surviving under very, very severe conditions. And many of them are trying to exist like that, and nobody has come to terms with that. So that's another thing. Having said that, and I hear you say a question about, probably I've forgotten that. Can you give me a shade again?
Yeah, my point is, considering the historical,
Yes.
You gave us the historical analysis of the conflicts within that region.
Yes.
Now, at what point do you think that these crises within especially the Plateau area, move from these internal crises to full-blown genocide, as it were, the way you described it? At what point?
When you say crisis between Birom and Magavul and all that, we never had that.
But there's been, if you ever go to Google now, you talk about, I mean, I have siblings who used to live in, or who still live in Jos. There's always been in the, 70s, 80s, crisis in Jos where people lose their life, right? Now,
yes.
At what point did such minute crisis eventually, or if there are different things you explain to us for those who may not understand, if not, at what point is that then no longer crisis than metamorphosed into massacre or mass killing?
You know that Nigeria has been metamorphosing, changing. At the point we were 12 states, we moved into 12 to 19 states, and now we're at 36 states. And all those creations of states have brought about boundary adjustments in the past that put a lot of tribal groups at risk, defining boundaries between them, like the Chawe people who are between the Chawe and the Irigwe people. There is that issue that existed there, and then we also have the Ateng and the Atakat that were there before. But then those were not uncontrollable. They were defined, and you can see active government involvement, and they were resolved. And all boundary adjustments were achieved, and people were living in peace. What we are having now is an invasion of people that we know they were actually nomads that normally used to pass through our land and go in search for greener pastures down south. And when it is rainy season, they migrate back. These people began to attack communities. They were armed with sophisticated weapons, and they would target communities along their sides, and they were attacked. And this is what they want to believe. They want people to believe that is farmer headers clash, but it's not. All the military interventions that have happened around Riom, Mahanga, and Joel area will let you know that it is not any farmer headers. It's that the Fulani have taken over the ethnic land in Mahanga, the Birom ethnic land, and they are fighting from Mahanga, killing people in Joel, killing people in Nkwi, and all those areas. And so this is what is happening. If that is resolved, we don't have any problem in Plateau State. I am telling you, the Bokos is made up of 3 tribes: the Ron, the Kulere, and the other tribe. There are 3, right? but they're not fighting against each other. Rather, there is an invading Fulani militant group that came and targeted all their communities at once and killed over 200 people. Now, and so this is what we're seeing in that place.
Okay, so, you know, we keep, I mean, it's benumbing to actually keep repeating mass killing of fellow citizens. Now, I have people within an organization that I belong to, some of them here, it's called SAMBA, that's the Southern and Middle Belt Alliance. And in there was a time, there was this narrative of that communities were sacked, communities were renamed, and till date, that those communities have not returned.
Yes,
and this is a direct question to you, as someone who has invested time within this region and on this particular nomenclature. Do you know communities, as we speak today, that were sacked, renamed, and people not yet to return?
As I'm talking to you, we documented over 300 communities that have been sacked all over Middle Belt by 2023. As I'm talking to you, they are over.
Hold on.
In Plateau State alone.
Sorry, can you take the numbers again?
We have documented over 300 communities that have been sacked and occupied by Fulani tribal people, and that's all over Middle Belt, in Taraba, in Benue, in Plateau, and in Kaduna, Southern Kaduna, and other places. As I'm talking to you, we started documenting with evidence of coordinates. In Plateau State, we came up to 136 communities, evident with coordinates that I have written a memorandum and sent to the federal government with that. I have copies of that with evident maps showing you locations. Some of those communities, you will get there and see Fulani people turning churches into mosques and putting on loudspeaker and calling for prayer in a church where the Birom people stay. And so we have evidence of that. As I'm talking to you, it's over 136, it's over 180 communities. We are still establishing their coordinates so that we have evidence, fact.
In Nigeria in 2025?
Yes. In Plateau State, where I'm staying in 2025, I have evidence of 136 communities taken over by Fulani.
Now, pardon my ignorance at this point. What is the job of the government? There is a governor in Plateau State. What is he doing?
The governor of this state came out publicly to say that, to declare that, of course, there is evidence of all these communities that have been taken over. But you and I know that the security of this country is not under the operation of the governors. They can only report to the chief executive, which is the president of this country, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He is the only one who has right to give commands to the military or to the police to carry out actions in favor of all the people. But the governor can only report. Our governor have reported. We are yet to see any action. When President Tinubu was here in Plateau State for the burial of one of us here, one of the things the Plateau people put across to him is that they want to go home. Their ethnic homes have been taken over. They want to go home. When is he going to make that happen? People are living in shambles, in makeshift camps, in their own homes. In 21st century, 2025, and we do not have an intervention from a government. And yet, when they designate this country as a country of particular concern, people are doubting how much have they been here. It's a shame to see that African Union will come out publicly to say that. If evidence come out, where are they going to hide their faces? How many times have African Union dropped on the ground to check some of the instances that have been reported of Boko Haram that we have personally taken to United Nations. And we have even United Nations Committee for the Prevention of Genocide. A 6-man committee was given me in United Nations to listen to me, and they send in an investigator here to confirm these facts. But how much have they acted?
Okay.
We see
now,
other than Action 4. Thank you.
Okay. I will get to my good brother Tony Nwezigwe now, but before I do, as a follow-up question to this, everybody will know that Buhari was accused of being in bed with his people. It's not a hidden thing that one of them said that they imported non-Nigerians and kept them in waiting. If the election of 2014-15 didn't go their way, they would have unleashed mayhem. But sadly for them, the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, pulled the rug off their feet by calling the president even when the election was not yet concluded, and handed power over to them. Many do believe that the former president, now late, General Muhammadu Buhari, that he was a sympathizer to some of this thing, whether it be fluke or real. I mean, he's no longer here to defend himself. But my question is, if he was in any way, shape, or form sympathetic to what was happening, he's no longer here. Many also do believe that the current president, whose wife is a pastor in the Redeemed Church, is not interested in the, whatever has caused this Christian genocide. Why then, if that is the case, has Nigerian government failed to prosecute or convict significant perpetrators of these Christian massacre, as it were? Why, thinking about it, what and why do you think that is the case? That the government appears incapable, even when it appears the head of the government probably not in support of what is happening?
You know that the governor of Kaduna State, El Rufai, came out publicly to say that they know these people. They imported them here, and that they went to pay them in order to stop attacking people. So they know where they are, right? And if they know these people and under their governance, they did not succeed in protecting the Christians. And upon that, when Buhari was getting over his time and he was handing over governance, El Rufai came out with the elders of Islam, Muslims in Kaduna, to say that they were the ones who planted President Tinubu, and that they did that to shut the Christians off. You know that there is this policy for fair, the distribution of power, that you will at least, apportion some part of the governance to either the faith of Christians or Muslims. But they came out with this Muslim ticket idea, and we heard El Rufai saying that they've handed over that, even against the wish of the Christians. And they are trying to run it. How can they then favor us under that up to today? And that's why I don't believe that there is anything going to come out under a robbed, robbed mandate to come and work in our favor, when it is loudly pronounced by these same people that they have handed over to Muslims and they will make sure that no Christians will come to power. What kind of proof do we need again that this is targeting a faith? These are all evidence. It's all over the media. The video is everywhere when El Rufai said that in Hausa. And we transcribe some of those and send it. So these are people who, whether we have the mandate, we were able to win the election, they have a right through any means to change it. And of course, they have proved it that through violence, they can take power and they will make sure that we don't come into power.
Okay.
No, it's not, it's our land, it's our people, it's our heritage. Why do you come and impose yourself over us? Take over our inheritance. That is occupation in 21st century. That's a criminal offense that has to be taken up in the United Nations. But that too has been denied.
Wow.
Okay, how they were embedded. A lot of them are representatives in United Nations. So there is that systematic, strategic identification, strategic representation to work against us. But we thank God, the God is alive, the God we serve is alive, and today we have listening ear. And we're trusting God that something will be done.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, in 1 minute, Reverend Ishaku, before Tony comes in, please, can you make intervention? You raised your hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mazi. I want to quickly add to what my big brother said about the IDPs and the interventions by the government in Plateau State. I think we need to call the governor to investigate some of the intervention they are giving in Plateau State. Let me surprise you. There was an intervention that the wife of the president came and disbursed of 1 billion to Plateau State IDP camps. It will surprise you that some of these villages only received, a whole village received 15,000 naira.
Oh.
Can you see what is happening? So
a whole village?
A whole village, sir. So we are calling for even an investigation on that matter. I pray that the governor will have access to this and please follow up on this matter. It is a serious issue in recent weeks in Plateau State. This issue is rising up. We pray that people that are saddled with responsibilities, we know that the security is not under the governor's control, but we pray that justice should be done to these victims. I want to thank my brother that they have track records of activities of fairness and accountability in most of these IDP camps. I have worked with them on a distant level from the background, and we are clearly seeing how people are being molested in some of these quarters. So thank you so much. Let me hold the horse.
Okay. Thank you very much. So now, let me come to more controversial issue here. My good brother, Dr. Tony Nwezigwe, who has written extensively on some of these things, and this is his forte. In one of the pieces that that he published earlier today, he made an assertion that in that piece, he repeatedly asserts that a silent genocide against Christian officers, emphasis, Christian officers exist within the Nigerian armed forces. Then my question to you, my good brother, is what specific verifiable evidence or independent investigation supports this claim beyond anecdotal or historical pattern? Because in this, you talked about the 1992 C-130 crash, and you talked about that is the Nigerian Air Force 911 crash as planned elimination. Could you please use this platform to throw more light in this to avoid any form of misconstruing or misunderstanding the position taken? Thank you.
Okay, well, I still maintain it, and a lot of people also are aware of that. Even the list I presented in my paper is not exhaustive, because there are a lot of young officers Christian officers that met their untimely death in the name of fighting Boko Haram. That is one, right? If you look at, if you go back to the September 26, 1992 air crash, just as I said, I am, let me say, a semi-expert in ground avionics, in ground aviation telecommunication as a signaler. I was trained as an aviation telecommunication air traffic expert before I went to read history. I decided to read history at the University of Nigeria up to PhD level. So, and as I said, the circumstances under which the C, that is Lockheed Martin's C-130H aircraft crashed, was clear sabotage. As I stated, at least one of my uncles was a lieutenant colonel then, and he nearly missed it. He missed it, and he was crying that his name was dropped. If you look at the 167 officers of major and lieutenant colonel that were killed in that crash, 99% were Christians, mainly Middle Belt and Southern Nigeria. You also look at it, the circumstances of that Lockheed, as I said, with 4 engines, turboprop engines, can fly with one. In case it can fly with 1 engine and land safely, if 3 pack up, it can fly with 1. And each of the 4 engines work independent of the other. So it's not a matter of engine 1 failing and engine 2 will fail and engine 3. No, they are independent. And for them to take off immediately from Murtala Mohammed Airport within 3 minutes, the aircraft was still on ascending level. They're still on ascending level, 3 minutes. You can see where it crashed. Then 1 engine packed up, the other one packed up, the other one packed up. Within 10 seconds, the 4 engines packed up. And it fell. And when it crashed into Ejibo, Ejibo, you see Murtala Mohammed Airport, you see Air Force Base in Ikeja, you see Ikeja Cantonment there, you see Ojo Cantonment, you also see naval district in a naval Eastern Naval Command at Apapa. What do we see? For 2 days, 2 days, our soldiers were alive because they discovered that the aircraft did not catch fire because that Hercules is rugged, and as I said, it became popular after its use in 1996 Entebbe raid by Israel. So we aviators developed interest in the aircraft and started studying it. So it's not easy for it to. It failed and it did not catch fire. So, and that disappointed the Abacha and Buhari government. And for 2 days, the army could not allow anybody to intervene and rescue them until they got suffocated. 2 days. I'm talking of aircraft crashing. Aircraft will crash. People will rush. Every every sensible society will rush immediately. There is crash. Go into searching, and then what do? They go about also. They go about trying to rescue. I was on duty on the day for Car 28 that crashed in Enugu Airport at our VOI, just after NNPC on Abakaleke Road. I was on duty at Signal's office. I was in charge on duty that day when the aircraft crashed. Immediately it crashed, we rushed there. Nobody wasted time that day. And here you see a military aircraft with our elite soldiers, 160 something, including some civilians, Ghanaians, Zambians, and Tanzanians, about 5 foreigners there, lieutenant colonels and major. The aircraft crashed, and the government left them 2 days before they went and rescued them within the center of Lagos.
Now,
we're talking 7 kilometers from the point of takeoff. And when journalists wanted, try to investigate, Abacha threatened them. And even those who tried to move further were also arrested.
Okay. when we published this, one of the comments on, when this was published states that the argument in the commenters' view that this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but that is an opinion. But I just want to bring it to your notice. But having said that, recall that under Goodluck Ebere Jonathan, I believe the former, I think that was a Kaduna state governor.
Governor and General Aziza.
No, Aziza and Aziza died, and I think was it
Christian? You are the only Christian governor of Kaduna State.
Yes, died.
And yes,
Patrick
was that? So was that crash also?
Patrick Yakoa.
Exactly. So was that also in line with the type of argument you're making that it is?
Yes.
Part of it.
Yes. The pilot named Squadron Leader Murtala Mohammed from Kano was a fundamentalist. And in fact, they hailed him. The Muslims, ulama hailed him and took over the children. They hailed him for doing it because the North, Jonathan decided to appoint the governor, his vice, at least to give the Kaduna Christians a breed of life in political matters. Yakowa, and they did not like it. And so that was the opportunity they took. They want to just crash the aircraft.
So in that sense, would you then, staying on that realm of virtual, probably speculation, would you then say that Aziza was then, more or less a collateral damage?
Yes, but the target was Yakowa. You see, I'm a professional historian. I don't believe in speculations. Like I've just analyzed the issue of Hercules C-130H, and I gave instances which are incontrovertible. So anybody talking about conspiracy theory, you bring counter. You bring your counter to it.
Okay. Okay. So everyone, we will be rounding up quickly, but before we do, I would want us to, there is a proverb in our place that if you've done the big business without really capping it, it becomes a diarrhea. So in that sense, we must also proffer solution to everything we have just discussed here. And we'll now take also questions from those who are joined us virtually. Now, as panelists, let me start one by one. I will piggyback to Reverend Dr. Ishakuama Kabong to say, in 2 minutes, what would be your proposition now to see that this madness, that this mass killing ends?
Thank you so much, sir. For me, this is a wake-up call to Nigeria as a country and to Nigerians. If the Nigerian government will not want intervention of any other foreign countries, they should receive this as a wake-up call to strengthen internal security and justice system in Nigeria, to demonstrate measurable progress in human rights. We must see it happening within 3 days or so. We want to see this happening, to rebuild diplomatic credibility through proactive engagements, not reactive engagements. We have been left to use reactive measures in many cases. I want to call upon the church, the Nigerian church, that we must rise up to be proactive. We must be ready for everything that is coming, prepare, preempt, and act in advance. We must not allow this to take us unaware again. And I want to call on any superior force or power, America inclusive, If there is any time to act, it is now. We are not to dictate how they will come into Nigeria to intervene, how they will carry out their tasks. But this is the right time. Delay is dangerous. Like we say it in Nigeria. Delay is dangerous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, Engineer Mark Lipto, I want you to have your own solution to that. But bear in mind, during your intervention, I would want you to address one thing. In the piece written by Dr. Nwezigwe, he argued that the International Criminal Court is to be, alerted for them to investigate the alleged genocide. Then I'll ask personally, do you think that that could also be a solution? If you can imbue that in your final submission, that would be very helpful. And those of you watching and those of you who are also in the room, if you have any question to any of the panelists, please raise your digital hand. It is now time to begin to take your questions. Those of you watching on the social media, I will now begin to take your question. If you do have any question, please write them down. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear where what brought us to this point is America's designation. Mm-hmm. And I could hear clearly President Trump giving this administration time to demonstrate the willpower to control. We have hope in that. Even though many people on the ground have no confidence in this government to try to bring to an end their suffering. We know that President Tinubu is a different personality from all those who have come this far. So we need from him a proof that there is effective willpower. There is willpower to bring about effective control and effective security measures that will make all the communities safe. That's one. And what I hear the victims saying is that they need to be returned back to their ancestral home and that justice be done for the lives of those who have been lost. Finally, that they need to be rebuilt, given some capacity to rebuild their communities and live again as a people. So they need protection. Are these things going to be gotten under this same administration is another question. This administration has demonstrated neglect, clear neglect of these victims. Can we trust them to bring to bear? We, the non-governmental organization, with the meager resources we've done and bring about impact in so many ways. But for a government to be quiet and to not be effective with the victims, I have a question whether they can bring to bear what the victims are saying. However, we are hopeful that if what President Trump has taken as a step will bring about action on ground, one of the things we need is justice. The second that the people are saying is that they need to go back to their home. Their home has to be secured. All those occupants have to be sacked out of the communities and their communities given back to them. And then they will have peaceful existence in their homeland, protected and given empowerment to continue to live as such. So this is what I think that will help in the future, but we are hopeful. The people on ground, our victims are hopeful that this can happen. So we hope that the administration, having given this opportunity, they will do something. But we have been observing. We saw that there are statements and information by the military of intervening in certain areas, but there are no evidence. But we on ground have seen evidence that there were more attacks in communities when Trump made that declaration. And because the enemies and the terrorists think that the denial on the ground is going to stop America from coming in. So we need a superpower. We need something effective to happen on ground. And at the moment, we don't have that yet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. And your final submission, before I take the hands that are up, Paul Yusuf, Dr. Bako, these are individuals still have questions for you. But, you know, Dr. Nwezigwe, your final submission and your solution.
Thank you very much.
Hold on. I want to, in this, your intervention, I am interested in one of the things you said in your in your open letter to Donald Trump. You said that you made calls for direct U.S. military intervention in Nigeria, right? Now, and in your closing remark, I want you to answer this question. If you are not worried that such intervention could destabilize Nigeria, West Africa, or even the volatile nature of Nigeria as it is now, considering the effect of Muslim and all the madness we read every day and people threatening to go to war.
Okay, first of all, Nigeria is already in a state of war. The only difference is that the Christians are not fighting back. The Nigerians are, so there's no fear about war. There's one popular hymn, hymn in my ancient and modern psychology. He that is done is fear no fall, he that is low no pride. So we're already in a state of war. So nobody should intimidate us about going into or going to, when people are dying daily. So that's a different thing altogether. Secondly, I interacted with these Fulani people. Central African Republic. I was in a, when I ran to Cameroon, from Cameroon, I was in the same refugee camp with these Fulani people who were Seleke rebels, who were driven away from Central African Republic. I was with them in Garouabulai, Garouabulai refugee camp, the highest, the biggest refugee camp in Cameroon. I was with them in refugee camp, border town of Northern Borno. I was with them. So I know what it is, not something Tinubu will wake up tomorrow and say he's going to solve. Because I passed through Northern Burkina Faso, where the Fulani are today fighting the people. I passed through from Senegal to where? From Senegal to Mali, where the Fulani people are fighting there. I was in Senegal for 6 months. The Fulani man was president then. But the main problem is Fulani people versus the other people there. In Gambia, Fulani people versus the other people. In Guinea, Fulani people versus the other people. So it's not only about Nigeria. So the continent, West Africa, is already in this area. And ECOWAS has been unable to protect our people. OAU, African Union, is also incapable of defending our people. And we are talking about what we call reciprocity, the principle of reciprocity in international law. If Nigeria invaded Liberia and brought unity there, brought security there, because the country could not maintain peace and security there. If Nigeria could also invade Sierra Leone and brought peace and security there, and if Nigeria attempted 2 years ago to invade Niger Republic, Nigeria should also accept America to invade them and put things in order. That is the principle of reciprocity in international law. Again, thirdly, there's a standing law. Let me tell you what. Let me just give you a brief of what the principle of international intervention or humanitarian intervention, which is approved by United Nations General Assembly in their 2003 resolution, September 26 resolution, about the responsibility to protect. That when a country fails to protect its citizens from crimes against humanity, from genocide, from all sorts of crimes, an outside power cannot intervene. especially if the Security Council cannot do that. And that is, if I'm not telling you about, and that is when you look at International Commission for Intervention and State Sovereignty, it simply states, the threat, international intervention of humanitarian, simply states, let me just give you the quotation. The threat or use of force across national borders by a state or group of states aimed at preventing or ending widespread and grave violations of fundamental human rights of individuals other than its citizens without the permission of the state within whose territory force is applied. So the United States Convention, the United Nations Convention empowers the United States to intervene and put order in Nigeria. It's in line with international law, international humanitarian law. It is in line with it. So and it is obvious that the federal government cannot do anything. First of all, the vice president is what? The vice president is the founder of patron of Boko Haram. Zamfara State Governor, who is former Zamfara State Governor, Matawale, who is now the Minister of State for Defense, was accused of supporting banditry by the present serving governor. El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, said that even the NSA, the present National Security Advisor, was paying bandits. So how can you tell me that these same people will turn back and turn against those people they are sponsoring?
Okay.
It is impossible. So we need an external force. And my final suggestion is, if America cannot come in, because if America comes in, the thing that can bring this country to stability is an interim national government to bring our country back to order. An interim national government is the only thing that can bring this country in order. And we expect America to help us.
Yeah, but
if America fails to do it, if America fails to intervene, we want Christians of this country, to arm Christians so that we can defend ourselves. Because this country was built by Christians, this country was brought together by Christians, and the Christians fought for the independence of this country. The greatest part of economic development of this country are by Christians. And we can't be slaves in a country where our ancestors developed, where our ancestors fought for the independence.
Okay. Now, Doctor, don't you think it's too simplistic to say that part of the solution will be to bring an interim government? Because if you bring an interim government, it's still going to be manned by Nigerians. So you haven't solved the problem. It's a question of just basically having another person, sit there at the helm of affairs.
No, I don't think so.
So what difference would it make?
No. You see, I want you to compare the governments of Christians and governments of Muslims in this country, and tell me
now.
Which
you see, so what you're saying now, then rephrase it differently. What you're saying is have an interim government led by a Christian. Then that is a conflict on its own. That alone is a conflict on its own because it is not democratically elected. Where you have a democratically, snatched and grabbed president, right? So, I mean, in the crude sense of democracy, he was elected as president. Then you want to now get someone who is not elected by the people, but on an interim basis, who is now a Christian. I think you're fueling the fire rather than solving it. Don't you agree?
No. I am not solving it because it is only a Christian who will understand the importance of ending terrorism in Nigeria.
But the wife of the president is a senior pastor, so he should also understand it because the woman at night will be giving him wahala as to why he should solve it.
No. Njenje,
his son is also a Christian.
No, you an Igbo man is telling me because do you know the principles of Islam and the role of a woman? The wife is only a political Christian. In Islam,
but even the president is not a jihadist. So I mean, and he's not a fundamentalist. He's a liberal Muslim.
No. I grew up with OPC, and the president formed what is called, called what is called, this is a religious group now that is mobilizing the Southwest. Tinubu is a jihadist, and if you look at all his Yoruba appointments, 98% are Yoruba Muslims. I am a historian. I don't talk without research. 98 appointments or 98% of Tinubu's appointments are what? Are Yoruba Muslims. He's a jihadist. And I've worked with Yoruba leaders. I worked with Afenifere. I worked with OPC. So it's not a question of he's not a jihadist. You can see what is happening with the Igbo people in Lagos State. That is jihadist plan to destroy Igbo presence, because what is it? They believe, the Muslims believe, that the power of the Yoruba Christians in Lagos State in particular are the Igbo Christians. Once the Igbo are done away, then the Muslim will take over Lagos.
Okay, thank you. Let's at this point agree to disagree, because let me come to my esteemed, wonderful participants here. Dr. Bako Nanzing, please, your intervention or your question. And those of you on the live stream, if you may also drop your comment, your comment or your question, we can read it out. Dr. Bako, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Njenje Media, and I'd like to begin by thanking you and the panel of speakers today. Very engaging, enlightening conversation. Thank you to Dr. Nwazego. Sorry if I don't pronounce the name very well. Yes, he's indeed a very dogged fighter. And to my own brother, Libdo, and all the work that they have done. The other younger Reverend gentleman, thank you very much. This is a very distressing time for Christians in Nigeria. But yeah, like they say, to every dark cloud, there are silver linings. And within that, there is also the silver lining. And I'm happy that there are cerebral individuals like the very wonderful doctor we have had as a keynote speaker today, who are onto these things with facts, figures, and very deep analysis. I enjoyed reading his last piece where he was talking about the genocide within the Nigerian military. That was very revealing. And thank you, sir, for that work. And I would look out for some of your other works and consume them. Thank you.
I will send them to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to Libdo for all the work you've been doing on the plateau and across the Middle Belt to reach out to our brothers. Some of us have been quiet for some time, but there is no need to be quiet again. There is no need. This is the final thing. Because if you don't speak now, then you're just waiting for the jihadist knife on your neck. We have seen it too many. I'm a plateau man. I grew up in Plateau State. I went to school in Plateau State. I have walked across this country, also internationally, and I have seen that this reality is real. I have lost uncles. I have lost relations. I have lost personal property in this jihadist intrusion into this country. So nobody, even if the whole world stands to say there's no genocide, I will say that I have lived it. I have seen it come. I give just one example. In the city center of Bukuru, Bukuru is the largest metropolis outside Jos. It's the headquarters of Jos South local government. After Jos North is Jos South. In the street where I used to walk every day when I was a student in the university, on that single street, there used to be about close to 10 churches. Today, if you go there, I am told that only one of those churches of those days are standing, and these are big churches. My father used to fellowship in one of those big churches, Assemblies of God, if I may be precise. That church is no more standing. So these are things that we have seen, and we have lived with it. And then, of course, the recent killings in the communities and the villages, we don't even need to talk about that one. Anybody, just take a drive from Jos to Bokos. Bokos is a university town in Plateau State. Just is a short drive, it's a relatively short drive. Take a drive. On the road where you're going, you will see villages that used to exist that no more exist. And you see the Fulanis either rebuilding or living there or taking over the ruins of those communities. It's clear, it's even very easy to find. So let's not stop talking about this. As Mike Arnold, who has been a very useful friend in this conversation, has told us, this is not the time to keep quiet. Thank you to our frontliners. Thank you to everybody raising his voice against this evil in our land. But like Mike told us, we have to look at the head of this snake and cut it off. If we don't cut it off, we may rehabilitate our brothers today. These people are also known. We have seen internationally that they are also very patient. They will keep quiet. They will lie low and resuscitate this and come back to life like a Hydra monster. So we must look out for how to cut off the head of the snake. If that head of the snake is not cut off, this evil may only be suppressed for a little while and it will rear its ugly head. God forbid. But I am trusting that the cerebral individuals here, those of us who have been silent, who are coming on board, and all those who are in various places. And I'm happy to also note what Reverend Dr. Ishaya talked about the project. Please get some of us involved if you think we can play a part. Whatever is necessary, we must do to safeguard lives, Christian lives in this country. Yes, they have brought the argument about Muslims are also being killed. Yes, so if they are interested in stopping Muslims being killed, why not let's work together? But we must take the lead because we know where it hurts us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Njenje Media. Let's do this more. Don't keep quiet. No silence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you on that. Then also, many of you that raised hand before, you can still come back, Chris. But now let me take Paul Yusuf, please. Paul, I know you raised your hand earlier, but I'm glad you stayed all this while to really make your intervention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mazi. And thank you for the very brilliant presentations by your panelists. I wouldn't go, just to save time, I would just stand by the existing protocol, by their names and everything. And the last speaker took half of what I wanted to say, so he's made life easier for me. The about the snake and the head that we need to cut off. Now, what is happening in Nigeria is something that a lot of us know, and it has been said for over 6 decades. One has watched how they systematically dismantling anything to do with the missionaries in southern Kaduna, where I came from. If you go to southern Kaduna today, you will see the schools in the 70s, like the SIM schools, the Igbo grammar schools in Kafanchan, the St. Faith, St. Peter's, all the missionaries, Catholic, Methodist, Anglican schools, SIM schools. In the 70s, they took them over as if the government is taking them over to run them, and then they turned the churches into assembly halls, and all that. We watched them come up to this point. So my point that I'm trying to make is that the genocide, the jihad, is started in the 1804. And the problem with Nigeria today is a continuation and escalation of that jihadism that is going on. So Buhari came, and it came to it escalated into a more crescendo that we then saw it today. But the good thing in this dispensation of Trump coming in with his tweet is that we can see today people are openly calling for the head of the Sultan. He is indicted, and like Mark said, they have the names and everything. So I want to thank Mark Libdo because of the work he has been doing. And when, Mark, you were trying to recall when you were in the House of Parliament, I don't know whether it was the same meeting, I met you there in 2018 when we were together with late Obadiah Malafia and Dr. Isu Adogo and others, with the select members of the House of Commons where we met there. I don't know whether that was the meeting you were trying to refer to.
That's one of them. The early ones are around 2007.
Right. So about the same time that you were in Geneva as well. So well done for all the work, and God will continue to give you the strength to carry on all these things. But Mark, I just wanted to ask you, besides the caliphate issue, are you aware when El-Rufai said that they brought these people from the Sahel, and Kaduna was mentioned as one of the states where they kept them, Katsina and some other places. Are you aware of a place in southern Kaduna called Laduga? Because Laduga is like a safe haven.
Yes.
You are aware of that?
I'm aware. Yes. All these things, all the spots have been given in reports.
Fantastic. So I'm saying that because I'm from southern Kaduna, and I know for sure Laduga is a safe haven where all the operations from southern Kaduna and Plateau and everywhere, that is where they retreat to. Okay, and if it was like a cattle ranch. It was for animal husbandry by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Kachia local government. It was a small portion of land that was given for that, but now they've turned it into a satellite city, and that is a safe haven where purely their people live there, and they can come with hundreds of machines, operate anywhere, and retreat back there. And the security forces are aware of this, but nobody has the stomach to go there and fight them. So I hope I just bring this to your knowledge. If you have them already, fine. And if you are contacting Mark Arnold so that we don't come from too many angles, please re-emphasize the Laduga issue to them so that they can know when Trump is coming to bomb, let him know exactly where to go. Thank you.
When Trump comes, let him know where to go.
Yeah, it's a when he comes, really, because that's the best thing that's ever happened. I'm living in Britain not because I want to live in Britain, but my ancestors were living under oppression. My parents live under oppression, and I couldn't live under oppression and bring up my children. If Nigeria is what I wanted to be, I would like to be a farmer living in my ancestors' farm with cattle and with sheep and my livestock there, enjoying myself. Rather, I'm living in the winters of Europe. I didn't bargain for that.
That's quite understandable. Many of you who are just still here, this is the end of this program. On the comment section is the Media TV link of this broadcast where you can still go and watch this. If you click on it, it brings you to that. And you can still share with others who were not able to join us. They can watch it. That was streamed live. Now, as I said before, ladies and gentlemen, as we draw tonight's State of the Nation Roundtable series to a close, one thing has become clear. This conversation is not just about religion, politics, or geopolitics. It's about the value of Nigerian lives, the integrity of our institutions, and the urgent need for truth in a time of deep distrust. We carefully chose this topic, Christian genocide in Nigeria, with question mark, unpacking Donald Trump's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of concern. This has opened honest, uncomfortable, and necessary reflections. Whether one agrees or disagrees with the term genocide, the testimonies, the data, and informed perspectives shared here tonight reminds us that Nigeria is at a crossroads where silence is dangerously, denial costly. To my distinguished guests who are still here, our Professor Yusuf Turaki, who sadly was not able to join us as a result of ill health. But here, those who joined us, we had Mark Arnold, who joined us from the United States of America, Engineer Mark Lipton, Reverend Dr. Ishaku Kabung, Dr. Bolaji O. Akinyemi, whose daughter is getting married tomorrow, and our indomitable spirited doctor, Dr. Nwankwo Tony Mwezigwe. Thank you all. Thank you for your courage, your expertise, and your commitment to justice. You have each of you here have added clarity to the topic. The world is watching, and the world is watching us closely. To our audience across Nigeria, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the global diaspora, thank you for your engagement, questioning and refusing to stay away. Nation building begins by informed citizens who demand accountability and stand for truth, regardless of whose orgs is God. As we sign off tonight, let us remember, peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the presence of justice. Nigeria must confront the facts, acknowledge the pains, and build a future where no citizen, Christian, Muslims, animist, or even Ndiomenana, or otherwise, our lives matter. We must not live in fear because of our identities. I am your host. My name, again, is Mazi Tochukwu Ezoke. And on behalf of the State of the Igbo Nation, State of the Nation Roundtable Town Hall Series, I thank you all for joining us. Until our next, stay safe, stay informed, and stay committed to building a better and just Nigeria. Like I said, one key thing is no Nigeria deserves to die. Government must walk away from the denial. The denial makes them accomplice. I told someone before now, how can it be that our government is denying that there is no targeted killing happening in Nigeria? Yet, IDP camps are littered everywhere. The question that I only have for the government is, if these killings are not targeted, who moved those individuals to IDP camp? Who occupied their ancestral land? There was this Muslim in one part of the north. It was said to be a Muslim imam that under Buhari, he was given a national honor. We all applaud that he saved about 250 lives. The government began to share that report to saying, look at this man, he saved life. Of course, I applaud him. This shows that we have people with heart. But one critical question that I must also not fail to raise is, those he saved, who were they running away from? That is a question that the Nigerian government must answer. On this note, I say thank you very much, wonderful people. Join me once more as I call, and then some of you may have to come back for a one-on-one session. Thank you. Good night.